Hello, everyone. Christian here. Long time no speak for a lot of you. Some of you a bit more recent. Um, it's been I don't think I've ever actually done a video call like this, but it's been a while since I've connected with everyone. And, um, you know, that's something that's becoming really important within our company. And it's something I'm trying to raise awareness for within our company. It's the importance of connection, whether it be with our guests, with one another, with our owners, you guys. Um, so I'm really excited to connect with you all. It's like I said, it's been a while for some, and I want you all to know that me and my team are always here for you, and I would like to try and encourage that one way or another. Obviously, you guys want your space. I'm not going to stop you, but I want you to feel like you are connected with us, and that you can always reach out and talk to either myself or someone from my team to make sure that whatever you need is being taken care of, and make sure that you know that we care about you and we want the best for you. And that we're out here fighting for you every day, whether you speak to us or not. So, with that being said, there is a ton of change that's been going on in the business. The company's really evolved over the past few years, and I'm excited to share some of that with you. Um, I will go through a list of some of that, but it's a mixture of new technologies, lots of new people, new systems, processes, new booking platforms, new partnerships, um, a lot of stuff, and a lot of things that we are, really constantly. It's a never-ending obsession for within our team to try and constantly increase both the performance that we can produce for you guys, and also the experience for our guests, and also the experience for you as owners. And I mean, everything affects each other. So, the more the more we can add to the experience for the guests, the more we can help increase guest satisfaction, increase our overall product, both in the form of the properties and in the form of our service. And it all affects the ultimate performance of what we can do for you. And then, on the back end, there's also things that we can do as far as technology to help with pricing, putting people in place, professionals that can help optimize your pricing, all things that we've been doing. So we're constantly obsessing over all this stuff. And it's something that honestly is a passion of mine as the leader of this company. And I try and make part of our culture. And, I'm really excited to say that it's been growing constantly, and it's very visible that it all is actually having a very positive effect too. So that's really exciting, and I'm excited to share some of that stuff with you. So before I get into that, I wanted to share a little bit of information, and I want to do this periodically. But I wanted to start by sharing a little bit of information about where the market's at right now. We have a ton of data. Obviously, we have our own experience um, from operation, but also we're in a network tied in with all the companies in the world. We also have a software that can help us, that shows us performance in all kinds of different ways with companies all around the world. So we've got a pretty global set of eyes on data. Um, and, it's always interesting for us to know how our market's comparing to other markets as well, and how our company is comparing to other companies or the market as a whole. And what we found is that fortunately, I predicted what's kind of happening this year several years ago. Um, and I saw so many people trying to get into short-term rentals that, and it's, especially in the Traverse City area, the northern Michigan area, Michigan in general, um, it was very clear to me that at some point there's going to be some degree of saturation, right? And this year we started to see that more so. Fortunately, I saw this coming several years ago, so I've been trying to put things in place to kind of counteract it ever since. And I've been doing it pretty relentlessly. I'd say I was working 14-hour days for probably about 6 months straight through the off season to try and implement as much as I could this past year to really make sure that we could do our best to counter that. And ultimately, in a good market, it's only going to launch us even higher. But in a bad market, we're still hopefully going to be able to perform above everyone else. And what I'm really excited to say is actually through data, we did in fact outperform anyone else in the market in this Traverse City market. Same with anywhere actually in Michigan with the properties that we manage. So some data that is really exciting that I'd love to share is in June. Um, before I go into the wins, I want to share probably the less appealing information, and then I'll add some sweetness to it. Um, so, the market essentially is down this year. It's down. Saturation is a real thing. It's happening on a global scale. There's so many properties coming on as short-term rentals that it's getting saturated. It's just a natural way of anything that is such a big opportunity. Um, but with that said, there are ways that you can still that there's still people using it. It's not like there's any less people trying to book properties. But what we have to do, and I'll touch on this, is we have to do more and more to stand out from everyone else, to make sure your properties are standing out from everyone else. So when people are looking through these long lists of properties, that yours are the ones popping out and making them want to click and go, that's the one I'm into. So, real quick, I'll cover, there's a couple of different ways you can do that. One is obviously the property itself, its aesthetic, its design, its amenities, um, and continuously reinvesting some of the money back into it to make sure that it's continuously, you know, increasing in quality or at least maintaining quality as the years go on. And not getting too stuck in the past as far as furnishings and stuff that's outdated, unless it's part of the whole vibe and aesthetic. Um, the other thing, and you can have two properties next to each other are identical, but one could be designed in a completely different way that is very eye-catching or gives an experience. Or you can have the same amenities even, but the design alone can make this one perform significantly better than the unit that's essentially identical other than design right next to it. The other thing is obviously the property manager and all the marketing and everything that we do for you. So um, essentially, that's partly why we are constantly refining our service, constantly trying to add improvement, inject improvement into every aspect of it, inject quality into every aspect of it. Um, when where we can never find a point where we're perfect. Um, there's never a lack of more stuff to do. But the fact of the matter is, we never stop relentlessly attacking it in that sense. So that being said, obviously the marketing is a big part of it, the photography, how that's delivered, the photographers we use, how it's been staged, how the photos and the marketing um, triggers the emotions that make people book, because people book based on emotion when it comes to this stuff. It's often when it comes to vacations, it's more down to emotion typically than strictly by logic, right? Some of that comes into play, like obviously logistics and sleeping, but sometimes more often than not, emotion will overrule that. So trying to trigger those emotions is something that we're constantly encouraging and trying to find ways to do. Um, and there's also certain things we're trying to add to our service. So things like concierge service, that's something we added about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now. That essentially means that in the Grand Traverse area and within an hour or so around that, um, guests can book private chefs. They can book masseuses to come to their house. They can book personal trainers, personal yoga instructors, mixologists. They can have their fridge stocked before they've even arrived. And you guys can leverage this surface as well. So in the email that I'm going to add to this, there's going to be a whole bunch of information typed out as well. I'm going to make sure that's included so you guys know that if you ever want to utilize the concierge service for your own property when you're staying there, you can treat yourself too, just like a guest would. So things like that can help significantly. We're doing our part, and I want you to know that We're constantly trying to find ways to optimize what we can do for you. Ultimately, the beauty of this relationship is we only do as well as you do. So it's a beautiful synergy because everything that helps us ultimately is in your best interest because it comes down to making sure you're making more in terms of revenue, but also that your property is being taken care of so that it has the longevity to continue with reviews and obviously be resellable, etc. But also to continue to meet our standards that we'd like to provide for guests as well. It all is a beautiful harmony. So, with that being said, I'm going to circle back to um, the market. So we're having to do more and more to stand out, and I really want to emphasize that. Really want to emphasize that because it's going to grow only more important. I think eventually people are going to start selling their properties because they're not making as much. Other people that aren't working with professional like property managers, they're going to suffer a lot more than those that are, and that have like someone like us being their advocate for ensuring that they're still able to stand out amongst all that crowd. Um, that being said, hopefully that will help things thin out a little bit. It'll kind of help balance out at a point, but still, I can't emphasize enough that doing whatever you can to stand out is paramount. So, we'll help consult with that if you'd like. If you're interested in reinvesting some money back in your property, trying to bring the design up, to the amenities, anything like that, I would encourage you to try and put some thought into yourself. Um, and really, what you want to focus on is, okay, what would make this place have an experience that is out of the norm, that would be really cool or interesting, or how can I make this be more functional? And there's lots of data we can provide in order to help you make those decisions. But if you can think of something creative outside the box, and that's what I encourage you to think outside the box, you can have fun with these. They don't just have to be stark normal places. You can have fun with them, and that's going to help them stand out, right? But try and think out of the box. And if you can think of something that would be really fun, and you can imagine lots of people doing it, chances are, or enjoying it, chances are that would be the case. So back to the market. It is down. I am right now. We're seeing more reservations come in for next year than we've seen for a following year ever. More inquiries, which is obviously exciting. That shows that more than likely, to some extent, we're going to rebound next year. But still, I like to act on the caution side, and I want to give you my best advice, as I am obviously the advocate here for you guys, and I'm here to look out for your best interest. Um, that being said, so although everyone in the markets that we operate in is suffering right now, right? It's down everywhere. Um, what's really exciting is our company. So our revenue management software, they work with a lot of different companies. Um, and basically what they do is and I'll explain the revenue management. That's something that we added in the past year as well, which has been incremental, it's been paramount to the success we've been able to have. And um, what they have is they basically have different pods that they put companies in. So our pod is made up of 20 different companies, um, and all of our ones are based in Michigan. No, they're not all in Michigan, but they're within, I don't know, one or two states over. Um, and basically they celebrate us as one of only two companies that managed to increase our, even though every company is struggling, we're the only company that managed to increase our revenues in July from the year prior. So that's pretty exciting. Um, it took an enormous amount of work, and not every property that we have, felt that down to that to, quite to the extent, but it was just like it just helped me acknowledge that all the work we're putting in is really setting us apart. So um, that's extremely exciting to hear. Uh, by no means does it mean that we're going to slow down in terms of putting more things in place to make sure that we can, shoot that up even higher next year. Um, but it shows that we're moving in the right direction and that we have something that stands out from all the other companies out there. That being said, we also got some data back that show, which I'll share in the email as well, that shows that in June for the Grand Traverse market and the Grand Traverse market and the Grand Haven market was very similar, almost the same numbers. But in June, we were 24% ahead of the market as a whole as far as revenues for our portfolio versus the market. So even though we were struggling and revenues were down, as things were harder, everything was way harder. It means that everyone else was struggling way more than we were. So all those efforts through the off season that we were putting in to try and make sure that we could try and counter this are really working. So that's amazing news, and I just want to really give a shout out to my team and all the support I've had to put that into place. Um, and then July, our revenues were 22% higher. Our performance as a company was 22% higher than the whole Grand Traverse Northern Michigan market in July. So we're we're doing good things out here. It's a tough market. This I can tell you right now, and I mean this. We are working harder than we ever have to perform the same. It's where we could, in the past you could list a property and you could throw it on Airbnb and it would book out. Now you have to have a lot more stuff going on. It's become very much an art and a science in terms of how you really perform at a professional level. And there's now a clear difference in the performance between someone doing it at a professional level and that is constantly trying to oil and improve that, refine that machine, as opposed to someone that is just coming in at an entry level, right? And just trying to do it themselves. So exciting stuff. Obviously, the market struggles is not exciting, but what is exciting is that obviously what we're doing out here for you and all the work we're doing in the background while you guys continue on with your lives. Some of you are very invested in your properties, so I'm not gonna put that down, but um, we're doing a tremendous amount of work in the background, and it's doing a lot, so that's exciting. Let's see. So um, I want to go over some of the things that we've added. I'm going to highlight most of that stuff in the email, but I'm going to go over a few things that are really big. So we've had this over the past couple of years. Some of you have joined us more recently. You know a lot more about some of this stuff. Some of my clients, some of our clients here have been with us for years, and we haven't connected with them on some of these newer things that we've implemented. So um, I'm going to express a few things, some of the bigger stuff uh, that is really making a huge shift. So one of the things is we've, as I mentioned, people like in order to perform better and better with with this environment that we're in right now, where there's more and more saturation, we have to do more and more to gain more exposure, not just to stand out, but also to gain more exposure, right? So there's a lot of different booking channels out there. In the past, most people, and still to this day, most people will just use Airbnb, maybe VRBO, right? Maybe one of the two or the two combined. Um, but those marketplaces are still thriving, but there's a lot of other marketplaces out there, in fact, that people use that not many people will list their properties on. So the benefit there is those platforms have a much smaller like list of properties on them, so it's much easier for you to pop up in the search engines. And the other cool thing is that where with hotels, guests will typically they'll shop around. They'll just pick the they'll go on a hotel website. Or show them all the different booking channels with the price next to it, especially if you jump on Google. and they'll pick the one with the lowest price, right? Or they'll shop around a few different booking channels. With vacation rentals, short-term rentals, people don't typically shop around like that. They'll normally choose the platform that they're used to, or that they want to use, and they'll pick the best, whatever property is in alignment or triggers their emotion within that platform. So if you're not utilizing it on all those other platforms, you're missing out on huge marketplaces and a ton of additional exposure. So we are every single year, anytime a new booking platform comes online that is worth being on, even if it can bring a couple of reservations a year, those are two reservations that you probably wouldn't have got otherwise, right? Um, Most of the ones that we've adopted are getting significantly more than that, which is really exciting. Um, but we're adding on anyone we can that can make a difference and give us more exposure. So some of those are Booking.com. We now have a direct integration with Expedia. When you list on Verbo, it'll put you on a part of Expedia, but it will not put you on the part of Expedia that then is tied into a whole bunch of other booking channels. So it's kind of hard to explain, but essentially they stopped allowing this direct integration in the past year to anyone that didn't already have an account and start building out properties in it um, prior to that date. So anyone trying to add that on now won't be able to. So we have a unique point of difference there, which is awesome. So Expedia is one. We'll get a lot of additional exposure there. Booking.com is another. Um, Hopper is another one. So Hopper is a travel app, and it has more Gen Z downloads than any other app, more than Airbnb. Um, so it's more of a mid 30s to mid 20s, or early 20s even, is the demographic really, which is not ideal for everyone, but it's a big marketplace, so it's a good place to get a lot of reservations from. Whimstay is another one that we adopted, which has really taken off a lot. We're getting tons of reservations there. In fact, we have more reservations on there than our revenue management company has seen in any other company, which I don't know if that's partly our doing or what it is, but that's exciting news. But the most exciting thing I have to share is our partnership with Marriott. So this is huge, and hardly anyone has it at the moment. They're very, as you'd imagine with Marriott, they're very picky about who they work with. It's really hard to get this. It takes a lot of time to integrate with. God, it took months to go through the process of getting through their steps, um, to get the real approval, um, and to actually go through the onboarding, and then onboarding our properties was a whole another thing. They're very picky. They want everything to be at Marriott standard, which is standard. I think any short-term rental operator should aspire to be at least. You know. Um, so what's really cool about that is that now all of your properties, as long as you have what they require as minimums, some of those things are just um, cosmetic things, and I will share the requirements that they have as well. And if they can't immediately approve your property, they will send what you can do in order to get it approved. Um, but some of the things they require is like a washer and dryer, um, and an oven. And part of the reason they do that is because it sets you apart from their hotels. It makes sure that there's that separation, which is smart on their part. But it also holds a standard for them that's what every single one of their properties includes. So I would encourage anyone that doesn't have a washer and dryer or an oven to find a way to get one, because this is a big partnership and it's new for them. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get traction. We are getting a lot of reservations from them, but I feel like in the next couple of years, that's going to blow up big time. So essentially, as long as we can get your property approved, and most of I'd say probably 70, 60, 70% of our portfolio has been approved so far. Um, What that means is that your property will then appear on the Marriott website, and then Bonvoy members, this is cool. Bonvoy members can use their points to book your properties. And then obviously if they book your property and pay for it, they earn points as well. So um, it opens you up to this huge marketplace, which is awesome. I think Marriott's got to be. I think it's one of the biggest hospitality markets in the world. Has probably I think the biggest member platform out there as well in the hospitality industry. So um, that's a really exciting move for us. One of the other things that's cool is, some of you can leverage this. Not everyone will want to, but um, you'll be able to use their vendors for furnishing and hospitality resources. So, if you ever wanted to, and you get their discounts too. So, obviously they have certain vendors they use to kit out all of their hotels, whether it's from furnishings to decoration, etc. You'll have access to those, and um, you'll also receive their discounts. So that's super exciting. Really proud of that one. Um, yeah, that was a monumental move for us. So uh, excited for that. Very excited for that. So on to the next, revenue management. So this is something that I can nerd out over for sure. It's incredibly powerful. It essentially, what it is it's a software, and we have a revenue manager as well. So she's a person, she's a professional, she's world class. Um, Pay her an extortionate amount of money, but she's well worth it. And essentially, the software, it's used for pricing optimization and for setting up pricing rules, and essentially increasing performance dramatically from a pricing standpoint. And there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do that using it. So the software in itself, it allows you to set up all sorts of rules that will adjust the nightly minimum based on proximity or other certain factors, or a discount based on certain factors. But one of the automatic features it has by default is that it will detect the demand within the market for any given day, and then it will adjust the price up or down in order to meet that demand. So for some days, you might make significantly more than you expected. On other days, in order to take that booking that you wouldn't have otherwise got if it was at a flat rate, it'll drop that price down. And you can set a floor rate so it never goes too low. Some of you had heard me talk all about this before, but for those that haven't, this is incredibly powerful software, and it's been absolutely paramount to us having the performance we did this year. Um, and it's one of the tools that really sets a professional apart from someone in an intermediate stage. But what she can do as well, so then the revenue manager, she'll add a whole personal approach to this that allows her to essentially add a bunch of rules for any property. So she can pretty much customize your nightly minimums and your pricing in so many different ways. So um, a couple of the things she can do in order to make sure that you're capitalizing the best way you can on changes in time and market and your availability is basically, like, for example, 5 to 6 months out, up to that point from any given day, it can stay at a 7 night minimum, right? So you're trying to capture those larger reservations earlier on. And then as you get closer, say 3 months out, it can drop down to a 5 or a 4, right? And then 2 months out, a 2 or a 3. 1 month out, it can drop down to a 2 or a 1. A couple of weeks out can drop down, or a week out even can drop down to a 1. Some of you won't want this. Some of you want to keep it. Some of you can't do any less than that. But no, than a certain amount. But for the ones of you that can, it means that we can gradually fill all the gaps and make sure that you get in those longer reservations, which everyone wants further out. But gradually, as you get closer, you can make sure you fill the gaps so that you're not missing days as well. On the other side of it, you can also set up pricing decreases incrementally as you get close to any proximity. So, for example, it can incrementally decrease the price as you get closer to any given date. Um, on the other, essentially, again, you'll have that floor rate as well, so that it will never go below that point. But it means that gradually it can go down toward that point. So, maybe like 2 days out from that date, it will drop to that floor rate. So, you have a much higher chance of getting that reservation. And the floor rate can be set to whatever you want. So don't feel concerned about the fact that it will drop down, because if you can always control where it will drop down to, so it'll never go too low. You just have to know where you want to have that cutoff. Um, that's okay. There's one other thing with revenue management that I definitely want to highlight is also, a lot of us have these nightly minimums, and we want to have nightly minimums, it's at least up to a certain point. But one thing that you can set up with this software that's really cool, lots of other rules you can set up. And if anyone ever wants to get on a call with Sabrina, she's our revenue manager, I would be more than happy to put you on a call with her, and she can help tailor this for your property with you over the phone. But what she can do is set up something called length of stay pricing. So let's say you have a 7 day minimum or a 5 day minimum. Um, if you had that minimum set up by standard, your property wouldn't show up in a search engine if someone was searching for, 1 night or 2 nights, right? But she can set it up so it will. So essentially, what the way it works is that if you have a 7 night minimum, someone can still book that 7 night minimum. They can still book it for 1 night, right? But they're going to pay the cost of 7 nights. Rarely does it happen with seven, but we've had it happen up to five, which is wild, where people have booked 1 or 2 nights, but they pay the cost of five, right? And you don't have to open those extra days out, but if you do have that in place, then the beauty of it is you've just made a bunch of free money, essentially. Um, you know, you only have the typically you only have the potential to make as much as nights you have, right? But with that, you have the potential to make more, which is obviously pretty cool. Um, Another thing we rolled out is email marketing, and you're going to see an example of some of the kind of the template we're following within this email that I'm sending out now. But there's going to be periodic emails going out, and this is the other cool thing. Our email marketer will be working with our revenue manager, so she's going to have her eyes on occupancy constantly, on performance, and if she sees a dip in demand, she will coordinate with the email marketing team and say, hey, look, we need to create a campaign to create demand here where there isn't it being driven organically, right? Maybe there's just a slow time in the season. So she'll come up with a campaign to generate demand, and she'll just do that whenever she feels necessary. So that's really cool, very powerful. But also we'll be sending out periodic emails with, um, discounts or specials, and also just retargeting all our past clients, saying, "Hey, book now." Just getting back in their face, making sure that they see us consistently, encouraging them to book ahead of time before places close up. Obviously, if you are within range of the horse show, we'll be sending out emails for the horse shows to target them way ahead of time and consistently highlighting all of the horse show properties. To add to that, we also are creating a whole new brand, an offshoot of our company that is going to specifically target all the horse shows in America. So I've been working behind the scenes, connecting with all owners of all the horse shows, whether it's so far we've connected with the ones here. So I've gotten very close with the owners here in Traverse City, Wellington in Florida, around Palm Beach, and Lexington, Kentucky. So right now, those are the ones we're invested with, and we're beginning to grow a presence with. Um, and then we'll hit Ocala as well, and move on to some others after that. But we're going to start there, create a network there, and the beauty of that is most of those same attendees, they just bounce from one to the next based on season. So it's often the same people. So if we can create a brand that is recognized amongst all of them, it's only going to make us be highlighted at each one, including here in Traverse City and in Michigan. So that's exciting. Um, but that's only relevant to some of you, so I won't go too deep into that. Um, Lots I could go on about email marketing, but just know that it's being done, and there's going to be a lot of different campaigns going out to guests now. We're taking it to a whole new level. Um, Another thing is this is cool. This is a big move for us as a company. So we have grown exponentially over the years. Um, we've actually, this is kind of crazy to say, and it's not something that I wanna throw in any like an owner's face. It's not doesn't serve you, but it's quite it's a lot for us because we worked so hard and we've been I started this company 9 years ago and I have a lot of passion with it. The company has basically doubled in size every year since we started. I absolutely didn't expect that to happen this past year, because obviously we got to an all-time high as far as inventory and such. But um, again, it's doubled, and um, other than the connection that I have with all of you, our service hasn't actually, it's not gone down, it's only improved. And, the bigger we become, the better people I've been able to hire, the more money I've been able to spend on these softwares and such to help us outperform, other operators. Um, but what's really cool with that is we haven't just doubled our inventory. We've actually now I've taken the company. We've essentially, it's not a franchise, but it's like a franchise. It's called a branch network model, and what that means is it's essentially been franchised, except it's got a lot more. It's a lot more lenient. There's a lot more freedom in terms of flexibility, I should say, in terms of regulation and what you can do with it and how you can set up each each branch essentially. With franchises, there's a lot of regulation, a lot of things everything has to be done exactly the same with each one, which is great for some people, not for what we're doing here. So the reason I'm bringing this up is obviously I want to share where we're at as a company with you. I want you guys to grow with us, experience that. It's part of feeling the connection. I mean, I can't tell you how much work I personally and my team has put into getting us to the point where we're at. It's been a it's been an incredible ride, and I have only fallen more in love with it and got more excited about, or more re-inspired by what's happening within it. It's constantly inspiring me more and more, which is it's an awesome place to be. But the reason I'm bringing this up, really, like beyond that, just strictly as a benefit to you guys, something that I'm excited that I've been working on. It's gonna take a little while, so bear with me. But essentially what's happening is now we've opened these branches up. We've gone international, so we now have branches as of the past 8 months in 7 new markets. One of those markets is Jamaica. Um, we're going into Puerto Rico. We already were in Puerto Rico, but we're going into there at a much larger scale. Um, Mexico, namely Tulum, that's really where we're kicking off. Multiple other markets around the states as well, and that's only gonna grow more and more and more. For me, quality and ensuring that we don't grow too fast to the point where we get disassociated and disconnected with everyone is absolutely important to me, and I will not sacrifice that for any type of growth or greed. Ultimately, it will just backfire in our face, anyways. So just want you to know that. But essentially, this is going to continue to grow. We're going to have more and more branches popping up. Each branch will be managed and essentially owned 50% by that branch manager. So, it's not going to take away resources from the Michigan market. but it is going to give us more resources to build a stronger core and a stronger base for the entire company. Um, so that's obviously a big plus. But something else that I'm excited is obviously we're in the vacation industry. I love traveling. We're offering things for travelers. It's only fair that we're thinking of you guys here too. And something I really want to do is, and that we've been working on a lot, is essentially making it so all the different markets that we're popping up in the next couple of years, we will have a program so that you guys as owners can take advantage of discounts and being able to, get specials for staying at all these different properties that we have in different countries and different states. So it can just give a lot of benefits to your travel experience. And if you wanted to choose one of the properties within our network, then we definitely give you discounts. We give you special perks. So just a way of that we can give back. And again, that's another thing we're never going to stop thinking of. Is how we can give back. At the end of the day, you guys have sat here and listened to me for 41 minutes so far, the ones of you that have, and I appreciate that. And I can't tell you how grateful I am from the bottom of my heart for all of you. We wouldn't be here without you. So, um, you've had to put a lot of trust in me and the company, and I'll forever be grateful for that. So, with that being said, going to keep finding ways to give you guys perks. So there's more to come, but that's just one thing that I wanted to share. Um, so something I want to finish up on is, and I know you guys are probably, I can almost guarantee, ready to turn this video off, but I want to really encourage everyone that this is the time to really start focusing on standing out. And if you need to reinvest, whether it's reinvesting in your property to improve its design, make it pop more, bring it up to date more, just give it a point of difference, or make it, have higher quality finishes, or just, stuff is old and needs to be updated. Um, it's growing more and more prevalent. I really want to encourage you guys to do that, and also to think outside the box and have fun with this and think, okay, both from a functional standpoint and just a general like fun experience standpoint or meaningful experience standpoint, how could I add to this property that I own or properties and and give it something that most other ones don't have, or at least give it an edge to stand out and help perform amongst the growing inventory that is in every market. So really want to leave you with that in mind. And we're coming into, at least in Michigan, we're coming into the slow season now. We are now currently marketing all of the properties that are open to it to longer stays, monthly stays. But I would encourage anyone that wants to do any updates to do it, right when that slow season hits, November, end of October. Um, Definitely worth doing. Definitely. And just so everyone knows, I reinvest most of my money back into properties as well. I believe in this. Obviously, it's what I do. I know how to optimize them. But I every single one I get, I put quite a bit of money into doing updates and renovations, and I don't cheap out on furniture. I don't I don't I don't I don't think that I put a lot of thought into every single one because people notice that, and it will give it, if you spend time looking at different vendors trying to find one like decor shops that sell like really unique stuff that maybe, or like bring something from like a different culture to Traverse City, all things that will make a big difference. I guarantee you, like every single one I've done has um, put out is drastically increased performance, and there's been a huge return on investment. So I'll leave you with that. Other than that, I want to let you know that these are going to keep coming quarterly. I'll make sure they're not, hopefully, not as long. This is the first one, so it's a lot to unpack, but I sincerely appreciate you. My team sincerely appreciates you. I team I'm very proud of now. It's become a very caring environment, uh, and everyone's working very hard for you, I can assure you. Um, but they're all here because of you guys as well. So thank you for that opportunity, and I look forward to touching base soon. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, please do. It'd be great to connect with any of you. And I'm going to leave my new assistant's number, who I'm excited to introduce to Calvin. He's a wonderful young lad, incredibly intelligent, and he's incredibly hardworking, and he'll do wonders for any of you. Um, and then Natalie as well. She came on about 2 years ago now. And I want to make sure you guys have contact with both of them. If you do happen to reach out to them, I would encourage you, you don't have to do this, but I would encourage you to create a group text with myself, Calvin, and Natalie, and yourself, so that, if you ever need to reach out to us, period, you have the lot of us to chime in. Unless, of course, you want to have a intimate relationship with any of them. Don't mean that in a bad way. Anyhow, again, sincerely appreciate you all, and thank you for giving me this time to talk to you all. And hope you enjoy Labor Day weekend. Take care.